Hello, welcome to Zatu Games. This review is literally unsinkable as I take a look, a sneak preview at Deckchairs on the Titanic. Remember, if you're new here, to hit that subscribe button as it really helps us out. Onwards! To set up Deckchairs on the Titanic, you will take the middle board for the amount of players you have. There are two of these, and the one you don't use, you will use to set up the chairs to their matching colour icons. So we can see the yellow and red and the blue are there, and we carry that on for the rest of the game. Each player places one meeple on the actions remaining track, which in a 3-player game is 3, and the start player goes over to that side. And also place a player on the scoreboard. And the actions remaining are more in a 2-player game. You get 4 actions as opposed to 3. On your turn, you will take one of the actions. So what are the actions you can take? Well, you can move one of your deck chairs in an orthogonal direction. So I can move it left, right, up or down. I can't push into other deck chairs though. So I cannot go down with this yellow one because there are 2 blues below me. What I'm trying to do is get my deck chair either onto icons of different colours will give me 1 point, icons of my colour will give me 2 points, and the middle icon will give me 4 points at the end of the round. So I can also see which direction the ship is going to push the chairs at the end of the round. And in this case, it's the furthest right. So in this case, I know that I need to be exactly on the thing. There's no movement from the ship is going to happen. At the end of the next round, the ship will shift everything once to the left, apart from the iceberg and any attended chairs. The second action I can do is to attend a chair or a space. So I could put this person here, my attendant, and I only have one of these, and that will save that space, meaning that no other person can move into it. But if I move a deck chair into it, that person will simply hop up onto the deck chair and guard it for my customer. The third action is to move the iceberg. The iceberg is different in that it can move diagonally as well as orthogonally, and it will push anything it comes into contact with as far as possible. So if it went up, it would push this lot up, and so on and so forth. It cannot push the iceberg, part of the iceberg. It cannot push attended chairs or spaces. So going down would cause no movement, for example. So if I was yellow here, I might do something like this, and then I'd move my character down, and then red and blue would take their goes as well, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure what yellow would do there. Blue would do that. Red would weep. Let's say red does this. It's a stupid move, but red did it. Yellow plonks themselves in there. So then blue moves the iceberg back. And then red has one more move. So they're going to make the best of a bad situation and go there. Now, we know we don't move anything on this round. If it were the end of a normal round, we'd move everything that we can move once. We haven't played any attendants, so we don't need to remove those. So we simply score. So red would score 2 points for this one being on its own colour, and 1 point for the deck chair that's on a different colour. So it would move up to 3. Blue would score 2 points total, and yellow would score 1, 2 points as well. And that is how the game works. You will play 3 or 5 rounds depending on if you want a short or a long game. The short game does take about 10-15 minutes, and the more cards you add to this deck, the longer the game will be. That's how to play Deckchairs on the Titanic. Deckchairs on the Titanic is a rules-light game that hides the depth of its decisions under this really cool theme. Now, there are a couple of things that I would change. Remember, this is a prototype, and this is only kind of what I think. But I do think that the beauty of the game lies in that kind of crunchy, abstracted out movement puzzle in the central board. And the other two boards, although they make the rest of the Titanic, they kind of distract away from that a little bit. And if it were on the table, I'd kind of want all the focus on those deck chairs and the movements, but I might be wrong about that and people might disagree with me. I think those two end boards could be a lot thinner. You could have one the width of the cards that just has 3 cards kind of in a column rather than as it currently is, and the score chart could be a lot smaller, creating a smaller table presence which feels more appropriate for the type of game it is. I also don't know how final the artwork is, but I don't find the artwork particularly special, and I think it could be more. It kind of hints at it with the kind of theming around the Titanic, but I do think it could be a bit more than it is. Having said that, I really enjoyed everything else, and I could tell reading the rules that this is made by people who understand games. There are allowances for normal kind of game mechanics and things like that. There are the rules are written in a clear way as well, and the way the game kind of plays out has some clear design and testing behind it. I especially like the turn order track, not only keeping track of who the first player is, but also keeping track of how many actions you've had, which can sometimes be something that games forget to let you know. You know, everyone's got a certain amount of actions. How many have we taken? Oh, I did this and I did that. You don't have to do any of that as long as you remember to move your character down. The actual kind of puzzle competition itself of moving your deck chairs around is super interesting. I find it interesting at 3, the short game and the normal game, but you could play a custom game of pretty much any length you want, and there's more to it than you would originally think. So I read the rules, think great family level kind of strategic tactical game with this interesting quirk on the movement. And there are some extra kind of kickers that really again take it from a game that could have been okay to a game that's actually got more going on. And one of those is the iceberg, which the part of the iceberg on the deck which pushes things and can really be used to your great advantage in ways that you don't necessarily appreciate, especially when you combine it with the movement of the deck. I do like that you get to see where the deck's going to move a turn after as well. So if you can't score a lot this go, you could possibly set yourself up for an absolute belter of a turn the turn later. And then the other thing that I really like that kind of adds a little bit more are the deck chair attendants, because you can place them into an empty space to reserve the space for you, or you can place them onto a deck chair. Well, why wouldn't everyone just stick it in the middle scoring iceberg space, the central scoring spot, because they come off at the end of the round, and also the iceberg's there at the start. So it's not a first player advantage to have that really. And if you move the iceberg, you're then leaving that central spot to be bagsied. Despite there only being 3 actions you can take each turn, moving a deck chair, playing an attendant, or moving the iceberg, there's really a lot of decision there. There's more decision than you would think. And again, reading the rulebook before I played, I thought, oh, only 3 actions, it's going to be really obvious what to do each time. But it's not obvious what to do each time. Obviously, you'll want to push for the most points, but sometimes you need to sacrifice something and stop other people scoring points to get the best return. And because, you know, with the different amount of players, there could be a lot of people trying to do that, it can be quite difficult to set that up, and at other times you can feel really clever for having done so. The boards that come with 2 boards for each player count mean that you use the spare board to set up the current board you're on. That works really well. And I think there's just a lot to like here. It's a game that I could easily see myself playing with my family, and quite honestly I could see myself throwing in a short game as a filler between other games, but want a bit more of a thinky filler game. Filler means that a game that you play between other games that doesn't take amount of time. Sometimes it's used almost as a derogatory thing, but it's not a derogatory thing at all. And especially with one like this, which plays quick but doesn't let your brain off the hook. So technically, what you have is an abstract puzzle, very interactive and sometimes mean with other players, that has this cool theme of deck chairs and trying to get the best spots. You don't actually, the Titanic doesn't crash in the story. It's just the deck chair of the Titanic, and you have, I guess the Titanic thing kind of explains why there's a chunk of ice on the ship. But if that kind of idea of it being on the Titanic bothers you, you could just make it a ship that's cruising around the Arctic. But there's nothing in the theme that kind of hints to the rest of the Titanic, being, what happened in it and all that. So yeah, I found it a really surprising, in a good way, game that is like all the stuff that you'd want to be complete. The important stuff, the gameplay is there. If it were a final product, I'd have some comments about the artwork and the components. This is all prototype, and the components that matter, the deck chairs themselves, are great. The iconography is clear. Could it be a bit more spangly? Yeah, same with the artwork, but again, it's at this prototype stage, and obviously I'm of the opinion that the board could be a lot smaller. Basically, that's it. So when those are the only kind of negative things I have to say, I think that it's a bit of a winner there. Thanks very much for watching another Zatu video. Do remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube here. Subscribe to our videos, like the videos, hit the bell for notifications. And we put live content out weekly on Twitch and on Facebook, so join us there too. Thanks very much for watching. I've been your captain, and I'll see you next time.